Congratulations to all our faculty retirees. The College of St. Rose is undoubtedly richer because of your contributions over the years. As a group, you have served the college for over 480 years. You have influenced future teachers, educational and school psychologists, musicians, artists, business leaders and accountants, computer scientists, historians, communications professionals, and sociologists. You continued to mentor alumni years after they left our campus in the Pine Hills neighborhood, and from their first job to their first promotion and beyond. Thank you for being such great teachers over the years. You will be highly missed. We are forever grateful that you chose to spend either part of your career or all of your academic career at the College of St. Rose. We are a richer community for your contributions. Remember, retirement is not the end of the road. It is the beginning of the open highway. I wish you the very best in a healthy and happy retirement.
I wish we were able to gather in person today to celebrate your work and the work of faculty who are celebrating service milestones, earning promotions or tenure, and moving on to retirement after having given so much to St. Rose. Your commitment to your students, to academic excellence, and to the founding values of this institution have made St. Rose feel like home for thousands of students. You remain the key to their St. Rose experience. And I know that the bonds that you form with them last years beyond the moment they cross that commencement stage. You are all blessings to this institution. I recognize that we have experienced some very difficult years at the college, this last one among the hardest for many reasons. Among them, having to say goodbye to colleagues who have served St. Rose so well for many years. Those of you who are moving on to new chapters will never be forgotten in the St. Rose story. Your impact on the college is everlasting. The challenges in higher education, particularly during the pandemic, have hit small private colleges like St. Rose hard. We've been living with furrowed brows at St. Rose for many years. I know many of you worry about the future because you care so deeply about this very special place. Your devotion to your students, your concerns for them, both as learners and as people, has never waned. You were determined to teach them when the pandemic created barriers to the personal connections that are so important at St. Rose. And that is a large part of the reason St. Rose will endure for the next 100 years. And in this period of strategic planning, we will be working together as a community to move the college forward and meet the needs of these times in new ways. I will never be able to thank you enough for the work you do every day. The countless St. Rose alumni who are out there serving as leaders and as advocates for the dear neighbor were inspired in your classrooms. Your story, your work became part of their story. We are in a life-changing field, and you are the core. Thank you for all that you do for St. Rose.
When you speak with Paul Vaskovich, it's pretty clear that he really loved jazz. And as a faculty member, it was pretty clear that he wanted to pass along both his passion and his knowledge of jazz to his students. And he did that in the classroom here for many years, but also as director of the college's jazz ensemble. And he spent 32 years working with students, younger students outside of the college, as director of the SEO, the Empire State Youth Orchestra jazz ensemble for 32 years. When I first met Paul Conti, who was a professor in the communications department, it was pretty clear from our conversation that Paul wasn't an academic, but Paul was certainly a practitioner and a teacher. He was very dedicated to his students, and he wanted to be able to provide the knowledge he'd gained through his practice to them in the classroom. So I first met Chris Tolmie. She was a member of my search committee, so she was one of my first introductions to the College of St. Rose. She was a very passionate advocate for students, for the faculty, for the programs. I found her to be incredibly detail-oriented, did everything to way beyond the best degree possible. So I really appreciated working with Chris, the passion she brought, the knowledge she brought, and the way she advocated for what she believed in, which were the art and design programs. So Tom Santelli was a longtime art faculty member here who taught photography. I actually met with Tom the very first time in his office. He sat in his desk and he was surrounded by camera equipment and photographs that he'd taken. It was really almost an immersive experience talking with Tom. I think one student described him as the best hippie ever, and another one talked about him being the coolest damn cat at the college. So he was somebody who made a real impact on his students, and someone who clearly had a real passion for the art that he was doing. So Anne Bresnell was a faculty member in our graphic design program for a long time. Anne was a real practitioner, and students often noted the fact that she brought the real world experience into the classroom. I know when I first got here, I was introduced to Anne, and one of the things she told me about was a project that she'd worked on with the City of Albany. Anne was a very nice person. I think you noticed that as soon as you met her. She was very concerned with her students. She was I found her to be thinking about her artwork in a very methodical, step-by-step way. She wanted to make sure that students got as much as they could out of what she taught them. And if you read student reviews of Anne as an instructor, I think they would have looked for, like Spinal Tap, the 11 button. If they could have pushed 11, they would have, but they weren't able to. So. So Lisa Kannenberg was a longtime history professor here at the College of St. Rose. I think she was known by her students as being someone who was incredibly knowledgeable in her field. She was an active historian, and I think she was a mainstay in the department, not just in terms of teaching, but also in terms of the life of the department. My actual first interaction with Lisa wasn't at St. Rose. I was at a function. She came into the bar where this function was taking place, and she was sitting at the bar with another faculty member having, I believe they were having bourbon. And I thought, wow, this is my kind of person. So. Lucy Bowditch was described, I think, by one of her students as a unique human being. And I think you really get that when you speak with her. She's obviously incredibly knowledgeable in her field, very passionate about it. I think she always looked at art as a social device, and that's sort of how she pursued her scholarship on art and the work that she did. I think my first real experience with Lucy was before I actually met her personally. There was an artist talk for a show at the Esther Madry Gallery, and Lucy was in the audience, and she asked a question, but she followed that question up by taking the microphone around to all the other people who were asking questions. So she was just incredibly engaged in this talk, and it was pretty obvious that she was in her world there, talking about art, talking about the impact of art and the importance of art. Barbara Unger is a faculty member in our English department, a longtime faculty member who's a poet, and she's published numerous books and chapbooks on her poetry, and those books have won a number of different awards. When our students walk into a class with Barbara, they're getting the real deal in terms of learning poetry from a poet, someone who really understands not just how the poetry itself works, but how the world of poetry and poetry publishing works. And I think that's a real benefit for our students. Barbara describes herself as someone who's always writing poetry. So she's someone who's incredibly immersed in her art. And I think that really comes through when you talk to her about both her work, and I'm sure in the classroom when she's talking with students about poetry and literature generally. Sister Mary Ann Nelson was a long-time music faculty here. She was actually one of the sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet, and she was the last one who was actually a teacher at the college. So she'd seen a lot at the college. She was the founder of our music industry program here, which was sort of a pioneering program, which made her kind of a pioneering faculty member in terms of thinking about how we support our students, with our curriculum. It's not necessarily just classical music that people are looking to do. I mean, how do you help a student who wants to do contemporary music, not just in learning the music, but in learning the business? And I think that was will continue to be a real legacy of Sister Mary Ann's at the college going forward. She was an incredibly nice person. Students always noted that she was, very nice, willing to work with them, had their best interests at heart. So I think she probably really embodied what people want to have from a faculty member and from a sister.
I was teaching in Radford, Virginia, Radford University. I had an appointment there, and the position ended. So I started looking for a job probably around the holidays in 1984 into 85. I saw an ad in the Chronicle for higher education, and I answered the ad, and I got a phone call saying, please come for an interview. I interviewed with a team of mostly sisters from the English department. Communications was a two-person operation at that point, and so I did my interview, and about 3 days later I got the phone call asking if I would come to St. Rose, and I said yes immediately. When I first started out in broadcast, my broadcast career, I was actually in radio very, very first. When I was doing that, a woman who I had known in college, who was the executive assistant over at the Times-Union building, had sort of looked after us while we were in college. She offered me some part-time work in the bureau over at the Times-Union building. And while I was doing that work, one of my responsibilities was to make entries into a ledger. And I noticed when I was on the ledger that there were expenses and my name was attached to them and they weren't payroll. She had paid some of our costs to come to the convention either out of AP funds or out of her own pocket. And I thought that was really incredibly gracious of her. And I asked her why she had done that. And she said, well, when people are starting out, they sometimes need a helping hand. So it's up to us to reach back and lend a hand to people who are trying to get up the ladder. And she said, and by the way, that will be your responsibility at some point. You will know when that is. So my actual college career at St. Rose was due to that promise that I made. I will miss the students the most. I over the years, I have had great relationships with my students. I have, on my Facebook account, I probably have 600 alums. We're sitting here in front of the wall of our notables, and every one of the people that's here on this wall, they're on my Facebook list. That's going to be the hardest thing for me. The end of August, the first part of September, when I normally would send out a message saying, okay, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, we start comm law, and I'm not going to do that. That's going to be a really tough morning for me not to do that. St. Rose gave me the opportunity to continue to use what I had learned, but in a different way.
to pass it on to younger people so they could do something with it that benefited them. I'm really glad that the sisters did this. It's a unique mission among colleges, and I'm glad that the college has done what it can to stay loyal to that mission and to stay true to that mission and to try and continue that mission. To other people from the college that staying there and going in the classroom every day, it's an incredible responsibility, and you are very important. And I wish you all the success, not only in your classroom endeavors, but in your personal lives, so that you get to enjoy all of this.
I just want to say to all of the retiring faculty members in the School of Arts and Humanities, thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your work with our students, with your colleagues. Thank you for helping the college move forward. I wish you all the best of luck in your retirement, and I hope that your retirements are all that you're hoping for.
Dr. Joanne Powers has been just a dedicated faculty member. She's been here for over 30 years. Every time I see her, she's working with students. She's been chair of the mathematics department for many years. She's heavily involved in athletics. She loves St. Rose athletics, and she's been for many years the faculty athletics rep. And just loves working with students, loves working with faculty. So I've worked with Joanne many times over the years. We've had to deal with a student, or perhaps with a challenge that comes up. And Joanne is always very on top of everything. And even as a faculty member, I remember working with Joanne on some committees, and she's always just so pleasant, just brings such a great energy to the room, and just works so well with all of our faculty. And again, students are going to be asking about her after she retires, saying, "Where's Dr. Powers?" Joanne, it has just been an amazing experience working with you. I hope to continue to see you around. I know you're planning on continuing to teach and stay engaged with St. Rose, and I know you're going to stay engaged with the Golden Knights. And just really congratulations on your retirement. And please keep coming back to St. Rose, and go Golden Knights. Professor John Avitabile. I've known John every year since I've been here. John was one of the first faculty members that I met when I came here. He was in my interview. He was on the committee that hired me. Being a computer science professor and in the computer science department. And John is just a great instructor. Watching him teach is just a very exciting thing. He has a great rapport with all the students, with all the faculty members here. No matter what, John always had sort of a steady hand and was always very cool and collected, and would always think of a solution that would work for everybody. So John was great at that. John, best of luck with your retirement. I'm jealous. I wish I could retire with you. I'm sure there's going to be lots of hiking in your future, lots of yoga, and I hope to keep seeing you around, and I hope that maybe you'll even continue to teach yoga classes here on the side to keep us all kind of chill. So, best of luck, John.
Deb and I were hired around the same time as full-time faculty members, but it seems to me that she might have adjuncted before then. And what I remember early in our careers together, she became department chair, I believe, before she actually had tenure, which sometimes is very difficult to do in times when faculty very much disagreed about things, and I appreciated her calm demeanor during that time. The other thing I remember about Dr. Kelsch, two stories, and they come from students. One is now a school superintendent, but he once told me, "Do you know Dr. Kelsch?" And I said, "Yeah, I work with Dr. Kelsch." And he says, best professor I ever had. She actually made me grow up and realize that teaching is really hard work. He said, until that class, I was coasting. And then I realized what I really had to do. And that means that she reached the students that she taught, and I think that's critically important. And another student who was just absolutely exceptional, she had an undergraduate degree in biology. She came into our graduate program where she gets certified in education, so she could get certified as a high school biology teacher and a special education teacher. I asked her as she was putting her capstone portfolio together, you know, what class really changed you the most, Erica? And she said, Dr. Kelch. She opened up a world of thinking about education, its structure, a way of thinking about critical access and equity in education in American society. And she said that really opened her to a way of thinking that as a biologist, she had never even thought about. Deb Kelch, what can I say? We weren't able to fully recognize your retirement because of the pandemic, and I have been able to see at least the pictures of family weddings and births and all this wonderful stuff that's happened in your life in the last year. I hope that you are having a fantastic retirement, that you're enjoying the time that you have to continue reading, writing, researching, and laughing. And I wish you well. I really hope everything's going great for you. Ish made it known that he was going to retire a few months before the end of this academic year. And because we were so split up and, you know, people were remote and Ish was in and out of the office and we didn't see a lot of people, we wondered, how is it that we're going to honor him? And it was kind of difficult to do. And he really he didn't want to be recognized, I guess, by a big group of people. But there's a few things that I remember about working with him as an educational psychologist. I was hired to be a camp counselor with the Calder Camp. It was a grant that we had here in the School of Ed a long time ago. And he and Dr. Jim Allen worked a few summers with kids here in the Albany City area. During the summer they came in and they did American history. And I didn't know that, well, here's this guy who's an educational psychologist, and what else is the depth of his knowledge? And there he was working with the kids on American history, and they took trips up to Saratoga to see the battlefield. And I just thought, you know, that's really great that he is really committed to the kids here in the city of Albany. The laughter in the classroom, the way that he taught what for some students can be an intimidating topic when you're talking about using standardized test design and things like that, that he made it so accessible. You know, in teaching, it's how do you reach that learner, and in both cases. But for Ish, I think that he doesn't realize how he reached out to all the students and what they walked away with, and I appreciate that too. Ish, you've only been gone for probably 3 weeks. Your official retirement date was June 30th, and I know you handed in your keys and quietly did your interview after you taught an adjunct course for us during summer 1. Your smile in the office, stopping in to say hi, talk with Katie, to commit to different grants that I might drag you in on. You will be missed for all those wonderful things, but I hope that you're able to spend time with your daughters that I know you love very much, with the rest of your family, go hiking, reading, writing, and just laughing. And make sure that you stay in touch with us, because we'd like to know what everybody's up to. After they leave their teaching, they haven't left academic life. So keep in touch with us and let us know how wonderful retirement is.
Khaled, Barry, and Mike, thank you so much for all that you have done for the school and for the college. Between the three of you, we have over 100 years worth of knowledge and experience that we are going to lose and miss. I personally have really benefited from the counsel that you have provided over the last 2 years that I've been over here as a new person coming in. Over the last 2 years, I've met with countless alumni who have time and again told me what an impact that you had on them as a student and continue to have them in their professional careers for years since they have graduated. So on the behalf of the school and the college, I sincerely appreciate everything that you have done, and with tremendous gratitude, thank you.
I came in 1985 and I was in the midst of a merger in another accounting firm. I was on a partner track, but the merger said, you know, maybe, maybe not, and just timing. There was the position open here. I taught as an adjunct for a semester. It was like the writings on a cave, I guess you could say, in ancient times. It just caught me, and luckily there was a position open, and the sisters made it happen. The sisters welcomed me with open arms. It was more like a family, and obviously that was a real tough time. And I didn't have a master's, so I had to get my master's. I was still in public accounting. I was raising a family. And so they'd always come to me and say, you know, what do you need? What can we do? And it was that encouragement that I found that I'm not going to get in a corporate setting.
I have some very mixed feelings about my retirement after 36 years. I came actually originally, I'm from Pakistan. I came to this country back in the 60s, end of the 60s. I came from Niagara University. That was my first job as a teacher. They hired me. My wife is a physician and she was acquired by Albany Med here. So I had to leave that place after her residency to this place. Eventually I was hired back in June of 1986. That's when I started, because they were starting the MBA program. They wanted me very badly, I should say. And so I've been here since the biblical times, I should say.
Just being able to have an effect on students, it was amazing. People that would come, or young people that would come as a freshman, and then as a senior, it totally changed. You know, people that wouldn't talk. And then the fact that there was the challenge to grow the accounting program. We were known as principally a women's college, and I take pride in that now we got to the point where our accounting program is known around the Capital District. Even across the United States, we've got students. So it was that challenge that really spiked me. And the relationship of the other accounting faculty, people, very professional. Don Dean, Kathy Katagiri, Sister Rita, who I loved. Once I was offered the tenure track, I said, this is where I want to be. I can continue to do my accounting practice or tax practice and have the best of both worlds, which meant summers off.
I was the chairperson to raise money for the School of Business with Kathy Katagiri. I got the Best Teaching Excellence Award from the college, Outstanding Community Service Award from the community of Albany, published books, published articles in the journals, which we do as professors, so that was a normal thing to do. When I use the word we, you know, every professor is prepared, so I didn't want people to say later on that Colin gave this and he said I did. They do as well the same thing actually, which we do. I think if you are a recent immigrant, you feel more serious about doing things, not only to prove yourself, but to make sure that delivery is good. And that's what I've been doing all along in life.
I've got a lot to do, and the practice, that I've never been a winter person, so I'm glad tax season's over the winter. Again, golf, I love to cook, Yankee baseball. What else can you ask for?
And I was every day eager to be here, whether I had something very important to do or not, but I was here every day. During all these years, even though my primary responsibility was to take care of the economics department and teach as well, but I wanted to say thank you to all of those people who have not only nurtured me, but also helped me along the way to grow.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Because I like to address this to my students, because 20 years ago, the Wonder Years ended. I remember Mr. Feeney, when he looked out and he saw his class and he says, believe in yourself, dream, do good. Class dismissed.